Amazing twist. Apache trades his farms for a son, but discovers incredible love with a widow. Eliatu's hands trembled as he stood at the edge of the cracked earth. Days turned into weeks, each sunrise revealing the relentless grip of drought that suffocated his Apache farm. His heart ached as he surveyed the barren fields, remnants of his dreams scattered like dry leaves in the wind. With each passing year, the laughter of children echoed only in memory. His heart screamed for what could have been. The absence of a son to carry on the legacy of tireless toil settled like a weight on his chest, a heavy stone he owned, but wished he could cast away. As shadows lengthened, Eliatu wrestled with an unimaginable choice. Trade his dying farms for a son? A desperate gamble that clawed at the edges of his sanity. The thought tugged at him, offering glimpses of warmth of a child's laughter while simultaneously clawing at every fiber of his being. What kind of man willingly exchanged his heritage for something so foreign? The whispered judgments from neighbors lingered in the dusty air, igniting an internal storm of doubt and fear. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days blurred together after he met Maya. Her fierce spirit mirrored his own, a spark of resilience that reached him through the dark fog surrounding his heart. They found solace in shared struggles, the porch of her adobe home transforming into an unexpected sanctuary. Eliatu felt a flicker of hope as he learned not just about gentle parenting from her warm smile, but about the depth of tenacity rooted in love and survival. However, societal fears soon loomed over their blossoming connection. Eliatu's chest tightened whenever he considered what others might shout in judgment. The whispers of neighbors' disdain felt like a noose tightening around his throat, leaving him gasping for breath. Was he willing to defy tradition, to challenge the expectations carved into him like marks on a tree trunk? With each exchange filled with electric tension, his heart raced, tackling the gnawing doubts that surfaced in the quiet moments. Just as his long-lost joy began to unfurl, the world turned. News of looming regulations backed by cold, faceless institutions sliced through the warmth they had cultivated, threatening his fragile hope. Eliatu felt the walls closing and societal norms slamming down like a storm front, wrapping him in urgency. He questioned whether he could protect the family that had emerged in the wreckage of his old life. Would he stand firm in defiance of a conventional life, or retreat into the confines of sacrifice he had known for so long? As the sunlight dipped below the horizon, casting shadows around them, Eliatu locked eyes with Maya. A cascade of questions flooded his mind. What constituted a true legacy? As he stood at the precipice of change, doubt and determination wrestled within him, igniting an excruciating internal struggle. He felt the bitter wind swirl around, whispering uncertainty. There, in the fading light, everything hung in the balance. Would love conquer all, or would the lines drawn in the sand remain too steadfast to cross? Eliatu awoke to the harsh light of dawn, the beams reaching through the dusty window like fingers probing for answers. It was a new day, yet the weight from the previous evening bore down heavily on him. Uncertainty gnawed at his insides, reminding him of the chasm between his desires and the expectations of his community. He turned over the idea of trading his farms in his mind. Wasn't the sacrifice for love worth it? But what did love bring if it came tethered to judgment and scorn? He found himself begrudgingly preparing breakfast, the familiar motions almost automatic, yet his thoughts spiraled around the tenuous grip he had on his life. Each crack of an egg echoed his internal conflict. So much broke, yet so much was needed to rebuild. As he cooked, fragments of conversations with Maya replayed in his mind, her laughter like a lifeline thrown to him, just as he felt himself sinking into the murky waters of despair. "Eli, you have to believe in what you want," she had said, a fierce determination marking her words. "If you want to build a life, you have to challenge the boundaries that box you in." Her fierce spirit ignited something in him, a flicker of bravery he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. If he chose this path, the consequences would be the bitterest of medicines. Yet could that pain lead to growth? With resolve building, Eliatu decided he needed to confront his fears. He dressed hurriedly, the fabric clinging to him like his insecurities. At the local market, the murmur of gossip filled the air, laden with judgment. Eliatu's stomach churned as he navigated through the crowd, dodging familiar faces that turned their backs in silent condemnation. It was as though the weight of the collective disapproval pressed down on him, urging him to retreat. But there at the edge of the market stall, he spotted old man Nikin, a figure who had seen decades unfurl, holding wisdom shrouded in years. Nikin's keen eyes flicked from the vegetables he was selling to Eliatu, the corners of his mouth curving into a knowing smile. Eliatu, he called, beckoning him over. Sometimes the path you walk is more important than the road others believe you should tread. Eliatu's heart raced. Was it time for a reckoning? Was he ready to challenge the traditions that entangled him? The words echoed in his mind as he approached, a mix of gratitude and fear swelling within him. He spoke of his dreams, his desire for a son, his love for Maya, his need to redefine what family meant in this era of uncertainty. Nikin listened intently, a spark of insight igniting in his eyes. You cannot expect those who are scared to understand courage. The only judgment that matters is yours, Eliatu. Create your own legacy. As the old man's words seeped into his consciousness, Eliatu realized that his identity was not forged by the land he farmed nor the whispers of his neighbors. He detested the notion of being bound by others' expectations. The decision wasn't merely about farming or trading. It was rooted in his potential to forge a life defined by love, resilience, and unyielding courage. But just as conviction bloomed within him, the sharp reminder of impending regulations returned uninvited, wrapped in the metallic taste of fear. How could he possibly stand strong when everything threatened to unravel? And what if the love he sought became another sacrifice rather than his salvation? Determined, Eliatu took a steadying breath, facing the horizon where the sun smoldered in brilliant hues of determination. It was time to carve his own path, to confront the traditionalists face to face. Today he would seek Maya, but more than that, he would confront the choice that lay ahead for love and legacy. The moment of truth was approaching, where a decision could alter the course of his life forever. Would he choose the path of conformity? Or would he bravely step into the unknown and reclaim his future? The answer loomed just out of reach, the air thick with uncertainty and possibility. Eliatu stepped away from the market, the din of whispers fading as he walked, though the weight of the world pressed heavier on his shoulders. Each step bore down a duality, the longing for freedom and the relentless tug of obligation. The scent of fresh produce and earthy spices filled his lungs, but it was overshadowed by the imminent confrontation he felt brewing, a confrontation with the very fabric of his existence. As he made his way toward Maya, a mix of anticipation and dread bubbled within him. Would she share in his dreams of what they could build together? Or would the fear of what others might say crush the fragile hopes that had begun to root in his heart? The thought sickened him. He had spent too long crouched in the shadow of others' expectations. He found her sitting beneath a sprawling fig tree, bright sunlight dappling her face, her expression contemplative as she observed the swirling leaves overhead. She looked up and caught his eye. A spark ignited between them. "Maya," he called out, his voice steadier than he felt. "Eliatu," she smiled, though her eyes searched his face for answers. He sat down beside her, the weight of unspoken words swirling like dust in the light. "You're quiet today. What's on your mind?" she asked, a gentle prodding but with a hint of urgency beneath her tone. He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "I've been thinking about us. About what I want, what I really want." The admission hung in the air, reverberating with unvoiced fears and dreams. Maya's brow furrowed, a flicker of concern passing through her. "And what's that?" "I want a family, our family. But I don't want it based on the fears that bind us," he said, the truth spilling out like newly poured wine. Each word felt liberating yet terrifying, stripping away safety nets he had relied upon for too long. She paused, her gaze penetrating yet understanding. "And the repercussions?" Eliatu felt a knot in his stomach tighten. "The world will watch. They'll judge. But do we allow their fear to dictate our lives?" Her response was a contemplative silence, and in that moment, Eliatu realized he was not just making a case for a future with her, he was also defending his soul against years of conditioning, against a narrative written by those who had no claim over his destiny. "Maya, I met old man Nikin today," he continued. the memory of the old man's words bubbling forth as if they were an elixir, feeding his resolve. He said that the only judgment that matters is our own. We must create our legacy. The mention of Niken's wisdom elicited a response in Maya. Her eyes sparkled, perhaps reflecting a shared understanding of the weight they carried. Do you think they will ever accept this love we seek? Eliatu studied her, a realization crystallizing. Acceptance may never come, but that doesn't mean we should live for it. The question is, can you walk with me into that unknown? He saw the flicker of fear in her eyes, mingled with the thrill of possibility. Together, perhaps? She asked softly, grasping his hand as if sealing a pact. That he nodded, the sensation grounding yet exhilarating. But deep within him, anxiety lurked, whispering doubts about how their choices would resonate among their families, their friends. Could this relationship be valued if it came with such heavy burden? The conversation shifted, outlining dreams and plans, but Eliatu's thoughts remained an undercurrent of trepidation. He needed to confront his parents and the elders, face them with a newfound understanding of his purpose and passion. It was no longer just about love, it was about self-acceptance and bravery. Suddenly, the air thickened with tension. A familiar figure approached, one he had hoped to avoid. Old man Kovu, the patriarch of the traditionalists, strode toward them, his face a mask of disapproval and fury. The atmosphere shifted palpably, charged with an impending confrontation that promised to expose everything. Eliatu's heart raced. The moment of truth had come, and he was prepared to stand and defend what mattered most. Would he find the courage to confront Kovu and forge a new path for himself and Maya? Or would the weight of tradition be too heavy to bear? Eliatu's pulse thrummed in his ears as old man Kovu closed the distance between them, his presence an unyielding storm cloud. Kovu was a sentinel of the past, a keeper of the old ways, and in that moment, he embodied everything Eliatu sought to transcend. Eliatu, Kovu's voice boomed, each syllable a hammer striking anvils of tradition. You dishonor our customs with your foolish desires. The weight of exhilaration in Eliatu's chest began to crumble as Kovu's words wrapped around him, a tightening noose that threatened to suffocate. His instincts screamed to retreat, to withdraw back into the familiar narrative of compliance. Yet, as he stood beside Maya, he sensed a swell of determination rising from the depths of his unease. I understand your concerns, Kovu. Eliatu began, his voice steadier than he felt. But I must chart my own course. Our lives cannot be dictated by fear or tradition alone. Kovu's gaze hardened, skepticism etched into his features. And what do you know of love, boy? It is merely a fleeting moment, a distraction that leads to chaos. There was a deafening silence in the air, each word throbbing like a wound. Eliatu glanced at Maya, her eyes wide with trepidation, and realized the stakes had escalated far beyond just personal aspirations. They were entwined with the legacy that defined who they were. He took a slow, calming breath, summoning the remnants of old man Niken's wisdom. Love is not chaos, it is the foundation on which we build our lives. If our hearts are filled with fear, how can we nurture for the future? The words flowed, a dam bursting under pressure. Without love, our family, our community, they become mere echoes of what they once were. I want to create something real. Kovu's expression flickered for a brief moment, and Eliatu pressed on, eager to seize the opportunity. I have no intention of dismissing our customs, but integrating them into the love we wish to cultivate. We can honor the past while forging new paths for the future. It's not one or the other. For a fleeting instant, Kovu appeared unnerved, the deep creases on his brow deepening as he processed Eliatu's boldness. Eliatu felt his heart race. This was the moment he had been preparing for, yet it felt unfair to confront someone like Kovu while the fight for acceptance loomed in the shadows. Your heart speaks of rebellion, Kovu declared, an awkward pause filling the air as if testing the room for support. It leads to ruin. Or freedom, Eliatu countered, an edge of defiance coloring his tone. The freedom to define what is meaningful for me and for Maya. Kovu's eyes narrowed. You think they will embrace such a union? You are mistaken. A life outside of our ways leads to isolation. Eliatu clenched his fists, the challenge igniting a flame within him. If it comes to that, then so be it. I'm not afraid of isolation. I fear living a life dictated by expectations, one where I am unable to be myself. Maya has become my inspiration, my partner in hope, and we refuse to let fear dictate our choices. As the last word slipped past his lips, an unshakable sense of resolve washed over him. Could he truly stand firm in his convictions? Kovu's face twisted in fury, voice trembling slightly as he responded, "This will not end well for you." Before Eliatu could retort, Kovu pivoted away sharply, retreating into the twilight of the approaching dusk. The shadows felt thicker, and Eliatu sensed a subtle shift, a crack in the facade of tradition. Maya turned to him, her expression a blend of pride and disbelief. "You stood your ground. That was incredible." Eliatu exhaled, the adrenaline leaving his body in waves. Yet, behind the exhilaration rested an undeniable tide of uncertainty. Would this confrontation forge the bond he longed for, or fracture the fragile network that surrounded them? The evening air wrapped around them like a veil, and Eliatu realized his battle was just beginning. Kovu would not back down easily, and the true test lay ahead, not just against the man, but within himself. How much was he willing to sacrifice for love, and would he have the strength to face the repercussions of his choices? As his heart raced with fierce anticipation, Eliatu knew one thing. The real journey was about to unfold, and he would have to confront not just Kovu, but the very doubts that haunted his spirit. The next challenge awaited him, leveling a clarion call. Would he have the guts to face his parents and declare the love he fought so hard to defend? Eliatu felt the world tilt on its axis as the weight of his next decision bore down on him. Facing his parents was a daunting prospect, one that felt like standing on the edge of an abyss, peering into uncertainty. He took a deep breath, steeling himself against the swell of doubt that threatened to engulf him. In that moment he grasped a profound truth. Standing up for love was not merely an act of defiance. It was an assertion of his identity. As he and Maya walked side by side under the fading light, a silent understanding passed between them. She had always possessed a quiet strength, and in her presence he found solace. He couldn't unravel the secrets of his heart without her by his side. Yet he feared what others might think, and how they might react when their lives intersected with his truth. What if they don't understand? He muttered, a cloud of worry hanging over his thoughts. What if they turn their back on us? Maya stopped and placed a hand on his arm, her touch a grounding force. "Then we'll create our own understanding," she replied, her eyes glimmering with determination. "But you have to tell them. You can't hide this part of yourself any longer." The prospect terrified Eliatu. He had spent years accommodating his parents' expectations, adopting the role of the good son, but now that role felt like a cage. What if I'm not strong enough? He wondered aloud, a shadow of vulnerability breaking through his bravado. Maya's voice softened, but her resolve remained fierce. Strength isn't the absence of fear. It's facing it head-on. At her words, Eliatu felt a flicker of acknowledgement. Perhaps strength lay in vulnerability, in allowing his true self to be seen even if it meant risking rejection. Resolute, Eliatu pictured the scene ahead. His stern father, his mother's disappointed gaze. His heart raced at the thought of their reactions to the news he bore. The sense of dread threatened to crush him anew. But with each step towards home, Eliatu gradually recognized the battle within was paramount. Would he let fear dictate his choices, or would he choose to embrace vulnerability in pursuit of love? Once home, Eliatu paused at the entrance. The familiar surroundings of his childhood felt strangely foreign now. The voices of his parents floated through the open windows, laughter mixing with the comforting aroma of dinner being prepared. It all seemed so inviting, yet he felt like an intruder in his own life. As he stepped inside, the initial warmth from his parents' smiles washed over him, bolstering his courage, but the knot in his stomach constricted painfully. "I need to talk to you both," he announced, the tremor in his voice betraying the fear bubbling beneath the surface. They turned to him, curiosity etched across their faces, the jovial mood hiccuping momentarily. With every word that followed, Eliatu cast off the constraints of who he thought he should be. He spoke passionately about love, about Maya, about his desire to forge a life authentic to himself. His words were initially met with silence, the weight of his confession hanging heavily in the air. As he continued, the uneasy tension began to crack, revealing the vulnerabilities he had long concealed. But just as he felt hope rising, an abrupt silence fell. The charged space hummed with anticipation, and Eliatu braced himself for the refusal he had feared. His father's face hardened. His mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Their expressions shifted through an array of confusion and disappointment, and the reality of their reaction cut deeper than any blade. Eliatu, this is not how it was meant to be, his father finally said, his voice heavy with the weight of tradition. Eliatu's heart sank at the words that resonated with echoes of failure, but a calm determination locked in place within him. He wasn't done. The confrontation with Kovu had ignited a latent fire, and Eliatu vowed not to allow history to dictate his path. In that moment, he realized that reconciliation with his truth and his family hinged on transparency, the most profound act of courage he could muster. Maybe this isn't how you thought it would be, but it is my life, he said, clarity breaking through the tension. This is my truth, and I deserve to live it. The door to change creaked open, but Eliatu sensed a storm brewing within his family. What was about to unfold could either fracture them further or pave a road toward understanding. As he stood at that precipice, Eliatu prepared for the next round of his personal battle, one in which acceptance was not guaranteed, but the clarity of his intentions shone brightly in the gathering dark. Would he break free from the chains of expectation once and for all, or would he crumble under the strain of familial ties? He braced for their response, a sharp inhale threading through his thoughts. If love was a fierce tide, how could he navigate its currents without capsizing? Eliatu's breath hung thick in the air as he anticipated the response from his parents. His father, the embodiment of their family's rigid values, stared him down as if weighing the gravity of Eliatu's revelation against the unyielding expectations engraved into the fabric of their lives. The silence stretched painfully, thick with emotions unsaid, until finally, his father drew a sharp breath. Do you even realize what you're saying? His voice, strained yet unwavering, ignited a fierce war within Eliatu. Each syllable seemed to chip away at the resolve he had fought so hard to summon. Was he truly ready to confront this foe, the very foundation of his upbringing? Yes, Eliatu responded, finding the strength in the clarity of his truth. I know exactly what I'm saying. I can't live for anyone else anymore. The fierce determination in his words hung in the air, seeking to bridge the divide between them. His mother turned, her silence profound, tears prickling the edges of betrayal. What will people say? She whispered, as if the thought could shatter the family's carefully curated image. A tremor surged through Eliatu. The ironic hurt of her concern struck him harder than he expected. People's opinions had always overflowed into their household decisions, producing a suffocating atmosphere thick with unrealistic expectations. Yet he finally grasped a deeper realization. He could no longer let her fears mold his choices. Mom, this is about me, he asserted, forcing himself to push past the emotional barricade. It's about us. In that moment, Eliatu realized how deeply intertwined their lives had become because of unvoiced needs and unresolved conflicts. His words, though trembling, shook the core of the family dynamics, revealing fault lines he hadn't previously dared to acknowledge. And then the dam broke within him. I love Maya, he exclaimed, unable to hold back the wave of feelings that cascaded outward. I don't care what the world thinks, this is my truth, and I'm ready to embrace it. His parents exchanged glances, trying to find clarity amid the chaos that had unfolded. The tension transformed, a slow pivoting of their understanding. Eliatu could see the cogs turning in their minds as they began to navigate the unfamiliar terrain he had laid before them. Is love worth throwing away everything we've built? His father's question struck harder than before, triggering a flicker of doubt. It was one thing to embrace his truth, but another to dismantle their legacy before him. Yet Eliatu could feel his determination solidifying into something stronger than fear. Yes, he answered firmly. If the love is real, then it's worth it. A wave of emotions flashed across his mother's face, initial shock, followed by a profound sadness, and eventually, a glimmer of something resembling hope. Eliatu couldn't foresee exactly how they would respond, but he felt an unexpected warmth that coursed through their lineage. Each moment felt like a stepping stone into the unknown. Could this be the start of healing? The sentiment flickered like endless possibilities, and for the first time, he sensed the potential for dialogues that could lead to acceptance. Listen, I know I can't change your minds right away, he breathed heavily, but I want you both to meet Maya. Perhaps understanding her will help you see why this matters to me. The tentative offers of friendship towards Maya marked a significant leap. The words felt like an olive branch rippling through their familial tension. Eliatu knew that vulnerability bred strength, and in trying to bridge the gap, he discovered something monumental within himself. He had begun to reconceive his family role not simply in the comfort of passive acceptance, but as a strong advocate for his own happiness. As the evening wore on, Eliatu understood the path ahead wouldn't be straightforward. The battle of acceptance would surely be fraught with trials testing every fiber of familial loyalty. Yet a new resolve fluttered about him. Perhaps he could inspire his parents to find their own emotional truths with that essence. Rippling in the air, Eliatu braced himself mentally for this collision course ahead. The realities of abiding love required courage, and the fuse lit by this confrontation promised a blaze of change. But just as he felt a hint of exhilaration, an unseen challenge loomed. What if, despite his efforts, his family remained resolute in their traditional beliefs? Would he face another setback in his journey toward acceptance? Eliatu leaned against the kitchen counter, his thoughts racing. Let the winds of change blow, but could he withstand the force to come? Eliatu woke the next morning with the weight of last night's conversation still heavy on his chest, the words echoing like distant thunder. The glow of dawn crept through the curtains, soft and warm, contrasting starkly with the tumult of emotions brewing inside him. As he prepared to greet the day, he pondered the precarious balance of hope and uncertainty that enveloped him. His parents had not provided the immediate rejection he feared, but their unease lingered in the air like a storm about to break. What if their tentative acceptance was merely a facade, a token gesture to ease the initial shock? It gnawed at him as he brewed coffee, the pungent aroma filling the kitchen like an unspoken challenge to forge ahead unflinchingly. He hurriedly scribbled down a few thoughts in his journal, his writing acting as a catharsis. Perhaps the act of confession would illuminate paths forward or unveil strategies to address the likely dismissals ahead. Each word solidified the fundamental truth he had embraced. He would no longer be the silent participant in his life. Yet, doubt danced on the edges of his resolve. Would his courage suffice to dismantle the walls his family clung to? A knock at the door jolted him from his introspection. Eliatu opened it to find Maya, her usual radiant smile just slightly dimmed, as if the heaviness of the previous day loomed over her too. "Hey," she greeted softly, stepping inside. The warmth between them felt like a lifeline, instantaneously dispelling the chill of uncertainty. "How did it go with your parents?" Eliatu took a deep breath before answering. "I think we moved a bit forward, but I'm not sure how much yet." He watched her reaction, eager yet fearful of her response. "They've agreed to meet you." Maya's eyes sparkled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "That's great," she said, but the tinge of worry in her voice was undeniable. "What if they don't understand? What if they can't accept us?" Eliatu felt that concern resonate within him. They stood on the brink of an emotional precipice, and one misstep could send everything tumbling into chaos. But he also recognized an opportunity not just for himself but for Maya as well. This could be the moment they solidified their bond, a union that held the potential to mold their futures. "We'll face it together," he responded, his voice steadier than he felt. "Whatever happens, we will figure it out." The assurance in his tone surprised him. Perhaps this newfound courage was rippling outward, beginning to influence those around him. As they sat together at his kitchen table, the contrast between their realities loomed large. Here was Maya, an embodiment of support and love, encasing his fears in a more manageable context. Each shared experience, conversations about passions, goals, dreams, and laughter helped Eliatu discover deeper layers of their relationship. These moments were reminders that love wasn't merely about fierce declarations, but about shared experiences that forged connection and understanding. Days passed, and Eliatu's nerves heightened with the approach of the meeting. Every conversation with his parents turned into an internal rehearsal of just how he might navigate the inevitable questions and concerns. He planned, strategized, and anticipated the potential conflicts that awaited him. But as the day drew nearer, doubt began to creep in again. His internal monologue revealed the struggle between caution and fearlessness. Would he be strong enough to uphold his truth, even in the face of potential rejection? Eliatu recognized he was not just seeking acceptance. He was learning to embrace a profound facet of his identity with unwavering resolve. The night before the meeting with Maya and his parents, Eliatu lay in bed, flickering thoughts intertwining like restless shadows. What if they turned her away? What if they chose tradition over love? He rolled over, staring at the ceiling, unearthing unresolved fears that felt shockingly intimate, yet insurmountable. Yet amid that chaos, a flicker of determination ignited. He couldn't control the outcomes, but he could control his response to them. The realization felt like a beacon of hope slicing through the smog of doubt. Acceptance from his parents was an outcome, but acceptance of himself was a choice. As dawn broke, Eliatu stood resiliently, ready to face whatever lay ahead. But just as he took a step toward the emerging light of possibility, uncertainty loomed again. What would happen if acceptance meant understanding a side of his parents he was unprepared for? How would he reconcile their friction with his evolving identity? Would he be brave enough for the revelations waiting just beneath the surface? Knowing that premonition, he felt an urge that propelled him forward. Eliatu awoke with the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the path before him and casting strong shadows that spoke of the heaviness that loomed over the day. Today he would take a step deeper into uncharted territory, a territory laden with potential pain but also unimaginable growth. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing upon him, even amidst the mundane ritual of preparing breakfast. Eggs cracked, the sound resonating in the silence as it echoed his heartbeats. As he sat down at the table, the remnants of yesterday's chaos lingered, whispering doubts that prompted his thoughts to spiral. How would his parents react? Familiar discussions about life choices would soon transform into a raw confrontation with the very essence of who he was. That thought was as daunting as climbing a mountain without knowing the path. Maya arrived promptly, her presence an anchor in the tumultuous sea of uncertainty threatening to engulf him. "You ready?" she asked, her voice steady yet empathetic. Eliatu admired her courage, a stark contrast to his own internal storm. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied, masking the tremors of anxiety with a facade of composure. They both knew that the next few hours would test the bonds they had so carefully woven together. Driving to his parents' house, each curve on the road felt like a question mark, raising tension with every turn. He became acutely aware of the car's engine, a throaty growl that felt like a reminder of his racing thoughts. This was not just a meeting, it was a battleground, where his identity would be laid bare, and where he would have to contend with the expectations forged in the crucible of his upbringing. That as they arrived and parked, he noticed his hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. Eliatu inhaled deeply, drawing in strength from Maya's reassuring presence beside him. "You've got this," she murmured, her eyes locking onto his with fierce support. They stepped inside, and the air was thick with a concoction of anticipation and dread. His parents greeted them with warm gestures, yet Eliatu could sense the unease simmering beneath their smiles. Conversations began, their words polite yet laced with hesitation, like stepping onto thin ice. Maya and he exchanged small talk with family over coffee. As platitudes flowed, Eliatu's inner dialogue became a cacophony of what-ifs. Each laugh felt almost mocking in the face of the storm brewing within him. Finally he could delay no longer. It was time. "Mom, Dad," he began, attempting to summon all the resolve he could muster. "I want to talk about something important." The moment hung in the air, thick and heavy, akin to the stillness before a storm's arrival. Conversation stumbled to a halt, and he could feel their focused gazes weighing precisely on him. "What is it, Eli?" His mother's voice cut through the silence, her concern palpable. He swallowed hard, his heart racing. In that precarious moment, it felt as if the world had narrowed down to the three of them, the weight of their unyielding history born in unspoken words. "I want to introduce you to Maya," he said, each syllable feeling like an admission in an exposed court. For a heartbeat, time stilled. His parents' faces transformed, and a wave of varying emotions slammed into his chest, curiosity mixed with apprehension. He watched as their expressions shifted, scrambling to recalibrate in the face of this unexpected news. "What about your future?" his father finally questioned, concern breaking through as he gestured toward a pile of expectations stacked like bricks against the wall of Eliatu's heart. "I'm defining my future now," Eliatu responded, his voice stronger than he felt. "This is who I am. This is who I love." In an instant he observed his mother's expression crumple, a mask of acceptance slipping to reveal fear. Eliatu realized he was not just confronting their potential disapproval, but also unearthing the vestiges of his own entrapment under traditional beliefs. The thought pierced through him, urging him to confront the deeper truth. Was he ready not just for their acceptance but to stand firm in his own identity? Would he face their fears with the same courage he had found through Maya? Or would the legacy of expectations entrap him once more? As silence filled the space, Eliatu understood that this moment would demand clarity, honesty, and perhaps the hardest decision yet, to remain true to himself in the wake of rejection or disappointment. The road ahead was foggy, filled with ambiguity. Yet, he felt the stirring within, the realization that to navigate this storm, he had to rise above, to be seen not just as the sun but as his own man, distinctly and authentically. Eliatu, with that thought, he braced himself for the revelations yet to come, knowing that the moment of truth was just beginning to unfold. Eliatu watched as his parents exchanged glances, communication passing between them in a fluid language of disbelief and concern. The silence stretched, suffocating, each second feeling like an eternity. His mother's careful expression of shock morphed into something he dared not classify. Fear, resentment, and maybe even betrayal simmered beneath her composed veneer. "What do you mean, define your future?" His father's voice rose, crackling with confusion. It struck Eliatu like a slap. "This is not just about you, Eli. You have responsibilities, a legacy." Each word struck him as an accusation, a reminder of what he was trying to escape. "Those responsibilities are not my future," Eliatu shot back, his voice piercing the tense air. The heat of unresolved arguments flared in his chest like wildfire, urging him to break free from the bonds of expectation that he had inherited. With each word he spoke, he felt the tether binding him to their perspective slowly unravel. "This is about who I love, who I choose to be." Maya stood by him, her presence grounding. She squeezed his hand tightly, reinforcing his courage. In that moment, Eliatu realized that this conversation was not merely about introducing his partner. It was a bold declaration of autonomy. His mother sighed. "Eli, this isn't about rejecting your identity. We love you." The words hung unfinished, as she searched for the right tone, the right argument that would make him see the error of his ways. "Then love me for who I truly am," Eliatu replied, the words spilling from his lips. "If you can't accept Maya, then how can you accept me?" His mother took a step back, as if he had physically struck her. The environment thickened with an unbearable tension, punctuated by the ticking clock, each tick mocking the slow collapse of familial bonds. Eliatu's shaking transformed from anxiety to resolve. He began to explore his feelings, thoughts rolling around his mind like loose marbles. It was liberating to articulate this truth. This new understanding of love, of partnerships, and of the spectrum of identity opened doors he thought were sealed tight. In the following silence, he could feel an urge to demonstrate his growth. "Mom, Dad, I've spent so much time trying to fit into a mold I didn't create. I've hesitated for so long, worried about protecting your feelings rather than my own. But today I refuse to do that." The realization of strength within him blossomed. He was not just a passive figure in his story. He had the authority to define his narrative. "I found someone who sees me, not just the son you've raised," he added, bolstered by clarity. "Maya sees the real me, and that is something I can no longer sacrifice." His parents appeared lost, reactions oscillating between despair and confusion. Eliatu observed this turmoil. He held the key to unlock their acceptance, and feared he might have to surrender a part of himself to do so. The dilemma weighed heavily on him. Should he barter parts of his identity for validation or press forward, willing to withstand the fallout? The weight of disenchantment felt ready to ignite again, but within him, a flicker of hope danced, a burgeoning trust in his capability to navigate the aftermath, whatever it might be. As conversations resumed around him, a sudden thought gripped Eliatu. What if the truth of his existence acted as a catalyst for others, including his parents, to confront their own expectations? What unforeseen strength might they discover in letting go of their own fears and embracing a different perspective? He had taken the first step into a new realm, a realm in which he unapologetically claimed his happiness. And as his gaze met Maya's, a surge of determination unraveled within him. Could he find a way to bridge this chasm, to help them see the beauty in his choice? Or was the line drawn too deeply in their hearts? Eliatu inhaled deeply, preparing himself for the conversation that lay ahead. The storm had only just begun, and he was ready to face its fury. Eliatu stood resolute in the face of his parents' bewilderment. The silence that echoed in the room became a testament to the uncharted territory they were collectively wading into. The simmering tension sparked within him a profound sense of purpose, crystallizing everything he had fought for. He was reasserting not simply his desire for love, but the right to exist authentically within his family's legacy. Love is not a distraction, he stressed, his voice now unwavering. It is a catalyst for everything meaningful in life. He watched his mother's brow furrow, her internal conflict visible. But instead of crushing him, this only ignited his resolve. I want you to see that I'm not seeking to destroy our heritage. I'm striving to honor it by living a life full of genuine love. Eliatu recognized his words as armor against their fear. He wanted to break through the expectations that had bound them for generations. I deserve a home filled with laughter, joy, and acceptance, a legacy I can build with Maya. It won't erase what you've given me. It will reshape our understanding of family. His father's expression shifted, some rigidity loosening as he processed Eliatu's plea. Eliatu pressed on, the conviction flooding his heart with an almost gravitational force. Is it so unimaginable for love to redefine what you thought family could be? I am asking for your blessing, not your derision. In that moment, he peeked through the veil of tension and caught a glimpse of hope. His mother's eyes misted over, and his father's grip on the dining chair eased, a flicker of understanding blossoming before him. Mom, Dad, I'm not abandoning our traditions. I am thriving within them, while building a vision that gives space for love in all forms, Eliatu declared, grounding himself. He sought out Maya's hand, intertwining their fingers, a symbol of partnership, strength, and mutual respect. The room hung in suspended animation as Eliatu's parents absorbed his words. The walls that had once felt like prison bars began to shift, like whispers of acceptance and understanding caressed their intimate space. Eliatu recalled old man Nikon's wisdom with clarity. He had dared to carve out his own identity in the face of fervent doubt and disapproval. Eliatu, we need time to consider this, his mother finally breathed. Eliatu felt the rush of relief wash over him, mingled with a tinge of uncertainty. Time is what it takes. I am committed to both you and Maya, and I'll be patient. He paused, allowing his heart to make the leap he longed for. I will always be your son, and I want you to meet her. Give her a chance to show you the respect, devotion, and love I see in her. His father's brow furrowed, but the harsh lines of disapproval softened. You've always brought us pride, Eliatu. We wish for you to be happy. The fragility of that acknowledgement unfurled a newfound sense of freedom within Eliatu. He was daring to reinvent what fulfillment might look like, and finally, armed with the strength of his convictions, he claimed his victory. He realized that, win or lose, he had bravely stepped into his identity. As days turned to weeks, Eliatu took actionable steps beyond mere declarations. He orchestrated a gathering where he introduced Maya to his parents in a compassionate environment. He wanted them to connect, to learn about who his partner was, her dreams, and how she vibrantly intersected with his life. The evening arrived, and Eliatu felt nerves mixed with anticipation. The meal flowed with warmth, laughter, and tentative conversations. It was palpable, the subtle dance of curiosity edging away from fear. He watched as his parents assessed Maya, their initial apprehension melting with the flow of shared stories. Slowly, the crevices of their disapproval began to fill. Each smile exchanged with Maya pierced the fog of resistance hanging in the air. Eliatu sensed a shift, an opening where doubts once dominated. It was the moment where his world intertwined with a glimpse of hope, evolving into something greater. Weeks later, with rising confidence, his father approached him. Can we talk? There were no shadows of fury, only soft vulnerability. They discussed not just Eliatu's journey but the uncharted paths his parents had traveled as well. Eliatu found himself listening, not just advocating. Maybe love takes many forms, Eli. His father admitted after a long silence. Your happiness matters to us. And if Maya makes you happy, his father hesitated, then continued. We will find a way to understand. Tears welled in Eliatu's eyes as hope filled the room. The past no longer held chains around their future endeavors. They were reshaping perspectives together. This was not merely a family healing. It was the forging of new legacies, a true testament to embracing love that broke the boundaries of tradition. Finally, Eliatu believed wholeheartedly that he had achieved what he set out for. He was no longer the son molded in expectation, but a man ready to honor tradition while standing firm in love. The unresolved battle within him transformed into clarity and reassurance. He had chosen love, and through that choice, he had conquered. This marked his personal evolution, a testament to his new legacy, a legacy reinforced by love, resilience, and connection. Today, as he looked around the room where laughter now filled the air, Eliatu soared high in his heart, witnessing that love was the bridge he always sought to cross. He had finally arrived. Now, if you found inspiration in Eliatu's journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. If you enjoyed the journey of love and growth, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the word. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, and comment your reactions and theories about how you perceive Eliatu's transformation.